Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another weekly meal prep video. So this week I'm going to be working on a few things in the kitchen. First, I'm going to get started with some hard-boiled eggs. I always make these in my Instant Pot. It is the easiest and best way, in my opinion, for easy peeling hard-boiled eggs. I use the 5-5-5 method, so I put the eggs in a steamer basket with some water on high pressure for 5 minutes. I let it do a natural pressure release for 5 minutes, and then I let them sit in a bowl of cold ice water for another 5 minutes. Once they're completely cool, you can go ahead and peel them. You can see that I'm just rolling them on the counter on a paper towel and the shells come right off. So with these eggs, I'm going to be making some deviled eggs to keep in the refrigerator for dinner and for lunches during the week, and then I'll leave a couple of them whole so that my kids can use them as snacks. Some of the other things I'm going to be making in this video are some broccoli cheese soup in the Instant Pot, some Waldorf Farro salad, sorry I can't talk, and then I'm also going to be prepping some pancakes and a few dinners for the week ahead. So if you're new to my channel, I'm a full-time working mom. I have 2 kids. Kira is 9 and Connor is 6. Both my husband and I work full-time, and I love to post videos about home life, working mom life, meal prepping, and grocery hauls. So if you're not already subscribed, I would love to have you around. I have shown how to make my deviled eggs on my channel before, but I'm just going to go through it real quickly. I don't usually measure anything just because I've made this so many times that I kind of know what I need to add to it just by tasting it. So I'm just splitting those hard-boiled eggs in half. I put the yolks in a bowl and mashed it with a fork. I'm adding some mayo and a little bit of dill pickle juice. I've also used dill pickle relish, but I didn't have any on hand today. I also add a squirt of yellow mustard, a little bit of Splenda, or you could use sugar, and then salt and pepper. Now this batch actually turned out a little bit runny. I think maybe I added too much pickle juice or too much mayonnaise, but they did taste okay. So you can see there that I'm kind of spooning this out into the hard-boiled egg halves. Normally, if I'm making a big batch of these, I like to put the yolk mixture in a Ziploc bag and then cut the corner off and just kind of squeeze them into the hard-boiled eggs. But since I wasn't making very many, I'm just using a spoon. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to get started on is prepping some chicken breasts. My local grocery store, Hy-Vee, just had chicken breasts on sale for $1.98 a pound. And when they have that sale, I normally like to stock up on 3 or 4 packages. What I do is I just trim off the fat and any of the extra like tendons or cartilage that might be on the chicken breast, and I slice them in half kind of horizontally. You can see there that I'm just sliding my knife in between the middle of the breast, because that way when you cook them later, they cook a lot more evenly and they cook quicker that way because they're thinner also. So my plan for this chicken is to put some of it in a Ziploc bag along with some olive oil and some seasoning, and that will be used for a dinner later in the week. That way my chicken is already seasoned and marinated and ready to go. For the other chicken breasts, I'm going to just put them in a few Ziploc freezer bags, and I will label them and just stick them in my deep freezer in the garage, and then I'll have those ready to go for meals throughout the month. That way it's just easier to grab them out of the fridge. If you freeze them flat like this, you can definitely break them apart a lot easier and thaw them out. So for the meal prep chicken, I'm using some of this Famous Dave's chicken rub. I think I got it at Walmart, and I'm just drizzling the chicken breast with some olive oil and adding the dry seasoning to that. And then I'll just put these in a Ziploc bag, and these will hang out in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 days until I am ready to make them for dinner. I'll be making barbecue chicken breasts for dinner one night this week. So for the other bags, you just want to make sure that you squeeze the air out of those as best you can, and then I'm going to label them with a permanent marker, and then I'll get those in the deep freeze and they'll be ready for another meal down the road. Okay, so next I'm going to work on browning up some ground beef for a couple of meals this week. In one of the meals, I'll be making some Maid Rites or loose meat sandwiches. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys know what those are, but I'll talk about them in a little bit. But I'm also going to make some pizza flavored stuffed pasta shells, which I believe I've made before on my channel. I think I made them for a freezer meal prep video, so I'll try to find that video and link it down below if you're interested in watching. But since I was making ground beef for a couple of different recipes, I just decided to use my Instant Pot to brown it up. So I'm just setting that on saute mode, and then put your ground beef in there. And I'm using this meat chopper from Pampered Chef to break up the ground beef as finely as I can while it's cooking. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the stuffing part of the pizza stuffed shells. This is a great way to use up extra jars of marinara sauce or marinara sauce that you have in your freezer. I had one bag of frozen meat sauce that I'm adding to my bowl, along with some leftover pizza sauce and some leftover bruschetta from Trader Joe's. That's a great way to use that up. So I just like to kind of freeze bits and pieces of things so that I don't waste a lot of food. That makes me feel better about my food purchases if I'm not wasting things. So I'm just taking out about a pound of the ground beef that I browned up and mixing it in with the tomato sauce, and then I'm going to add some Italian seasoning. Actually, I don't have Italian seasoning on hand, so I'm just using oregano, some thyme, and some rosemary, just sprinkling that in to taste and stirring it up well. For this original recipe, I'll go ahead and leave a link to it down below so that you guys can print it off if you're interested in making it. The next thing I'm going to do is just boil up my pasta shells. So I'm going to put 18 of these into the boiling water, and I like to put them in separately to make sure that they don't stick together, and then just boil them according to the package directions. After they're done, you can rinse them in a colander with really cold water. This will help to stop the cooking and make sure that they don't stick together. So the reason why I love this recipe is because it is such a great make-ahead meal. If you want to make it as a freezer meal, you could totally do that. Otherwise, you can make it 3 or 4 days ahead of time and just leave it in the refrigerator and take it out when you're ready to bake it during the week. So to get these filled, what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of pasta sauce in the bottom of my 13x9 pan, and then I'm just taking the shells one by one and stuffing them with the meat mixture. I'll line those up in my pan, making sure that they are far enough apart that they don't stick together. I also wanted to mention, if you guys don't follow me over on Instagram, please head over there and do so. I always have a link in my description box below to my Instagram page, and I'll pop the name up on the screen right here. It's just Jen Chapin. I post a lot more over there and usually post things that we're eating or things that we're doing. So if you want more real-time updates, that is the place to get them. So once I get finished filling all of the shells, I'm just going to pour some of the extra tomato sauce over the shells to make sure that they don't get dry. And then I will sprinkle some mozzarella cheese over the top. I went ahead and used the whole bag, which was 2 cups. And then I'm also going to sprinkle it with some pepperoni, and that's kind of what will give it the pizza flavor. You could also sprinkle this with other pizza toppings like mushrooms or green peppers or black olives. I didn't have any black olives on hand, or I probably would have added those. Here's what it looks like when it's all baked up. I just wanted to show you guys a shot of that. It's really good, and I served it with some garlic sticks for dinner later that week. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to meal prep for this week is some loose meat sandwiches, or Maid Rites as we call them here in Iowa. If you are not familiar with this recipe, a Maid Rite is actually just sort of like a sloppy Joe actually, but without the sauce. So sometimes they're called loose meat sandwiches, and the original Maid Rite actually was founded in the town that I live in. So that's a little bit of trivia for you there. But there are tons of copycat recipes out there, and I haven't made one in quite a while. I found one on Pinterest, and I'll go ahead and leave a link to that recipe down below if you guys want to try it. The original recipe was not an Instant Pot recipe, but I decided to use my Instant Pot because I thought it would be quicker and easier to make ahead than the crock pot. So 2 pounds of cooked ground beef, you're going to add some dried minced onion, some beef bouillon, some chicken bouillon, brown sugar, apple cider vinegar, soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and that's it. Oh, and a cup of water. And then I just went ahead and cooked this on high pressure in the Instant Pot, and you can see that after it was done, it was perfectly tender. I went ahead and tasted it, and it was seasoned really well. To make this ahead, all you have to do is just put it into a dish and put it in the refrigerator. You don't want to get rid of any of that juice that you cooked it in. Otherwise your meat will get really dry. And when you heat this back up, you want to make sure that you use the juice to heat it back up with. So I'm just putting this in a glass dish, and I will store that in the fridge, and it's super easy to warm up on a weeknight. You can see here that I made Adam some Maid Rites with cheese, and then I made mine actually on fries with some cheese sauce, which is called a Maid Rite mash, and it is delicious. Okay, so next I'm going to get started on prepping my produce. This is something that I always do every weekend, regardless of whether or not I'm doing a huge meal prep, is prep all my produce. I just find that we are much more likely to use it up during the week, and it's less likely to go to waste if everything is washed and trimmed and cut up. So Hy-Vee actually had some pineapples on sale this week, 2 for $5, and so I went ahead and bought one because I thought that was a great price. You can see here that I trimmed both the ends off the pineapple, and I cut down each side to take the skin off, and then I'm just quartering it and using my knife to diagonally cut the core out. So I know that they make like fancy pineapple peelers and cutters and everything like that, but I've always just used a knife, and this is the method that I use, and it works out fine. So sometimes I also get questions about the knife that I use. This is like a high quality chef's knife. I think the brand is like Zwilling Henckels or something like that. I'll find it on Amazon and link it down below. I will warn you, it's pretty pricey, but if you buy a knife like this and you take good care of it and you keep it sharp, it's the last chef's knives you'll ever have to buy. And honestly, I think that it's one of the most important tools that you can have in your kitchen if you like to cook. So you guys know that I love chopping and washing my own lettuce. I just think it tastes so much better, and I actually enjoy doing it for some weird reason. But this is actually romaine that I had bought the week previously. I actually don't usually wash up every single head of lettuce that I buy when I buy it, because I do find that, you know, it'll last 4 or 5 days, but if I leave it unwashed, it'll actually last longer than that. So what I'm doing is just kind of peeling off any of the brown parts, and then I'm chopping that up and putting that in my salad spinner. I love this OXO salad spinner. You guys know that. If you've watched my videos, I'll link it down below. I wash all of my produce in it. I'm squeezing a lemon down over that, which helps keep the lettuce from getting brown. And then I'll soak this in cold water in the sink for about 10 minutes. This also helps to rehydrate the lettuce if it's been in your fridge for a little while, so it kind of serves two purposes. But once that is done soaking, I will drain it off, and then I'm just using the salad spinner to spin that dry. Okay, so for the lettuce, I'm just going to put this in a Ziploc bag with a paper towel to wick up the moisture. And yes, I do want to acknowledge that, yes, I'm using a lot of Ziploc bags this week, and it's just because I was in a hurry and I had limited space in my fridge. I really try not to use Ziploc bags all the time, but sometimes I do, and I'm sorry, I'm a human. I know I'll probably get some comments for that, but I'm just trying to make it in this world today as a busy mom, trying to prep food for my family. So for the parsley, I did the same thing, just soaked it in cold lemon water and spun it dry, and then I'm just going to wrap it in some paper towels and put that in the refrigerator as well. This is how I like to store most of my herbs, and if you do this, they will stay good in the fridge pretty much all week. I'm also going to wash up some green onions or scallions, whatever you want to call them, and I will also put these in a plastic bag in the refrigerator as well. All right, so I'm going to get started on washing up my apples. I like to also soak these in my salad spinner in cold water with a little bit of vinegar to make sure they are clean. Once they have soaked for about 10 or 15 minutes, I just rinse them off and put them out on a towel, dry them off really well, and then those will go in the fruit bowl. I find that if I wash these up and put them in a fruit bowl out on the counter, my kids are more likely to eat them as snacks during the week. One of the other things that I was planning on making for dinner this week was a cheesy cauliflower bake, and I can link that recipe down below. When I make that, I like to just prep my cauliflower on the weekend so that it is a lot easier to put it together during the week. So I'm just quartering my head of cauliflower and quartering it, cutting the core out, and then I'll just roughly chop that and put it in my salad spinner. I like to soak that in cold water and then rinse it off to make sure that it's clean. And then that will just go in a Ziploc bag, and it stays pretty good in the fridge for around 5 to 6 days I've gotten out of it. So that's a great tip if you're going to use veggies during the week for your cooking. Go ahead and prep them up, wash them, cut them up, and put them in the refrigerator for later use. Next, I'm going to work on washing up my grapes. I have some red grapes here that I got at the grocery store. I'm actually going to use some of these for the Waldorf Farro salad that I'm going to make, but then the rest I'll just leave in the refrigerator so that the kids can have them for snacks and breakfasts and lunches. This is actually one of my least favorite jobs in the kitchen, is taking all these grapes off the stems. So what I like to do is just put them in my salad spinner, and then I will soak these in really cold water in the sink with a healthy dose of vinegar for about 15 minutes just to loosen up any dirt that might be on them. And then I make sure to rinse them really well. And I store them in a container with a paper towel or a Ziploc bag with a paper towel in the refrigerator. Sometimes I get questions about why I use vinegar, and I would encourage you to do your own research on washing produce, but there's some evidence out there that suggests that lemon juice and vinegar helps kill bacteria on your produce, and so that's how I prefer to wash it, and it's also safe to ingest, so that is a plus as well. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to work on for meal prep is this Farro Waldorf salad. This recipe actually came from the Food Network magazine that I get on a monthly basis, but I did find it online, and so I will link that recipe down below so you guys can print it off if you want to make it. It's really good. This actually ended up turning out way better than I thought it would, and everyone loved it. So the first thing you saw me doing there was just putting some farro. If you've never used it before, it's actually a grain and it's pretty good. It's really good in like cold salads like this. But I put that in a pot of salted water and brought it to a boil. You just want to cook it to the package directions. And then for the dressing of this salad, you'll need some mayonnaise, some sour cream, buttermilk, apple cider vinegar, and then it's flavored with chopped up green onion and dried dill and salt and pepper. I'll be mixing that up here in a little bit. When the farro is done, you'll just rinse it with cold water, and you can put it in a colander and rinse it really well with cold water until it is cool to the touch. So the other ingredients that go into this salad are 2 apples chopped up. So how I like to cut those up is just quarter them, and then I take the core out, and then I'm just chopping them into bite-sized pieces and adding them into the dressing. And because this dressing has that buttermilk and apple cider vinegar in it, you can actually keep this salad in the fridge for up to 4 to 5 days, and the apples won't brown too much because of that acidity in the dressing. So that's one good thing about this, and plus it tastes really good. I actually think it would be good too with like some grilled chicken added to it, but I did take some to work and share it with my coworkers. They really liked it, and then Adam took a container to work as well and had that for lunch with some soup during the week. Another ingredient that goes in here is grapes, and so you'll need about a cup of halved grapes. So I'm just going to have those up and get those in the bowl with the rest of the salad. Next, I'm going to chop up some celery and get that into my salad. This is how I like to store my celery, in a mason jar with water in the refrigerator. It will keep for actually several weeks like this in really cold water. So that's a tip if you don't use celery up super fast like we don't. So it's good to keep it on hand like that. And then next, I'm just going to be putting some chopped flat leaf parsley into the salad. I also wanted to mention that my mom got me these stainless steel mixing bowls with handles for Christmas. I really like them a lot, and I'll find them on Amazon and link them down below if you guys are interested. I love that they are large and stainless steel, so they're super easy to clean, but I also like that they have a handle and a spout as well. So you can see me there just dumping in my cooled farro along with some of the dried dill. And then I'm also going to add some walnuts, some pecans, and what else did I add? Oh, craisins. The original recipe called for raisins, but I had craisins on hand instead. So there is the finished salad. I went ahead and tasted it, and I thought that it needed a little bit of salt and a little bit of honey. So I went ahead and added that and stirred it back up, and then I'll get this packed into containers to use for the week. Sometimes I get questions on the glass containers that I use, and I have a variety of them, so I'll try to find some online and link them down below. I just love using glass so much more than plastic because it doesn't stain. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to meal prep is some broccoli cheese soup, and we will use this for dinner one night and then for lunches throughout the week as well. I'll link this original recipe down below. I did make a few changes to it, but basically followed it for the most part. So in the Instant Pot, I put half a stick of butter along with some olive oil. Just so you guys are aware, if you don't know, adding olive oil to your butter when you saute things makes the cooking temperature of the butter higher so that it's less likely to burn. So I'm also adding some garlic to the Instant Pot, and then I will go ahead and put that into the put the insert into the Instant Pot and put it on saute mode. Next, I'm going to cut up some carrots and add those to the onions and garlic as well. Now, the inspiration of why I wanted to make this is because I had 2 bags of frozen broccoli and cauliflower that I had stuck in my fridge about a month ago. They were actually in my refrigerator and they were about to go bad or go south. And so I wanted to make sure I didn't waste them. And so this was kind of an experiment. I actually just took the broccoli and the cauliflower raw and threw it into the freezer with the intention of making this soup on a later date. And I'm happy to report it worked out fine. So just a tip for you guys, if you are have veggies in your in your refrigerator that are about to go bad, stick them in your freezer and make soup out of them. It worked great. So especially for soups like this, I always like to grate my own cheese. I just think it melts so much better and it's so much better tasting than the pre-grated stuff. So I grated up some sharp cheddar cheese. I'm also adding some chicken stock to my Instant Pot. So I added about 4 cups. I have homemade chicken stock that I make in my Instant Pot, and I'll link that recipe, or I'll link that video down below that I did meal prep with that in. But I love keeping it in the freezer because it is great for recipes like this. So I'm going to go ahead and set my Instant Pot to sealing and set it on high pressure for 15 minutes. Oh wait, I forgot to add my nutmeg. The recipe called for some nutmeg and I forgot to add that. So again, sealing high pressure for 15 minutes, and that will allow the broccoli and cauliflower to cook in that chicken broth. So once it's done, you can decide if you want to puree it or not. Typically when I make this type of soup in the Instant Pot, it cooks it so thoroughly that once you stir it up, the veggies break up and you don't have to use an immersion blender, but you could if you wanted to. And also the original recipe did not call for cream cheese, but since I had some of that on hand in the refrigerator and I did not or I wanted to make sure I used it before it went bad, I went ahead and threw it into the soup along with some salt, pepper, and then I'm also adding my grated cheddar cheese as well as a little bit of hot sauce just to give it a little kick. So that's kind of the base recipe. You can obviously add to this. If you wanted to add some extra protein, it would be really good if you added like chicken breast or shredded chicken, or maybe like some chopped up cooked like kielbasa or Polish sausage. That would be really good. I tasted it and thought that it needed a little bit more cheesiness, and so I'm actually adding some American cheese slices. If I had Velveeta on hand, I would have used that, but since I didn't, I'm using the Kraft singles and it worked out just fine. So basically you just want to cook this on saute until all of the cream cheese is melted and all of the cheeses are melted, and until it thickens up a little bit. I did not find that this needed any extra thickening, but if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of milk mixed with cornstarch if you thought that it needed to be a little bit thicker. So here is the finished soup. I've just removed that from the Instant Pot base and I'm leaving it on a rack just to cool before I go ahead and pack that up into some containers so that we can take it to work during the week. Now, I've never frozen this soup. I'm not sure how well it would freeze just because it's more of a cream-based soup than a broth-based soup. If you guys have frozen a broccoli cheese soup and thawed it out again, let me know in the comments below how it does. I'd be curious to see. But anyway, I'm just going to get this packed into some containers. I did have one of those soup cups from the Sistema brand. I'll try to find one of those online and link it down below. That's my favorite cup to take soup into work just because it's so easy to heat up and it has a vent in the top. But the rest, I'm just going to use glass containers and get those into the fridge, and we'll use them up this week. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to work on prepping is some pancakes. The reason why I decided to meal prep some pancakes is because I got this huge container of buttermilk in my Hy-Vee grocery pickup the week prior. I actually only asked for like a cup of buttermilk and I got this huge like half-gallon container, and I didn't want to waste it, and I do have a really good recipe for buttermilk pancakes, and this is a great thing to make ahead and freeze, and it's super easy to warm it up in the microwave and your kids can have it for a quick breakfast during the week. So this was originally a recipe that I got out of the Food Network magazine years and years ago. I'll try to find it online and link it down below. Otherwise, if I can't, I'll just type it out in the description box. It looks like it's from 2011. So in this recipe is flour, granulated sugar, salt, baking powder, baking soda, buttermilk, eggs, and then melted butter, and you mix the wet ingredients together first and then add the dry ingredients and whisk it really well. Sometimes I have to add additional buttermilk if the batter is too thick, but just use your judgment until you think that it's the consistency that you want. So to cook up these pancakes, I'm actually going to use the griddle pan that came with my stove. I actually didn't think I would use this that much, but the most thing that I use it for is making breakfast, like eggs and pancakes, and it is really nice to have. If you don't have one of these, just use a regular skillet, put it over medium to medium high heat, get it really hot, and then spray it with cooking spray, and then you can just pour on your batter, cook them until they're golden brown on one side, flip them over and cook them until they're golden brown on the other side. So once these are done, I'm just going to transfer them to a plate so that they will cool. I can't remember how many pancakes this made. I want to say like 12 to 15 pancakes maybe of this size is how much this batch made, but how I like to store these is in the freezer. I'm going to label my Ziploc bag, and then I like to store them in a flat layer in Ziploc with parchment paper in between the layers of pancake. So I'm going to go ahead and put 4 pancakes in here, and then I will add a square of parchment paper and then just layer the additional pancakes in on top of that. The reason you want to do this is so that they won't stick together when they freeze. That way you can remove them one at a time, and you can just heat these up in the microwave for about a minute. I wrap them in a paper towel, cook them for 30 seconds on one side and then 30 seconds on the other side, and they're good to go. Okay, so here's a look at everything I got done today, all of the meal prep that I did. I actually did this over 2 days, so sometimes I get questions on how long it takes me, and this probably took me about 3 to 3.5 hours total over 2 days' time. So I chopped up my pineapple that will go in the refrigerator for snacks and lunches. And then I also had my washed cauliflower, my chopped up and washed romaine lettuce. I also chopped up some cucumber to use for salads and some parsley and green onions as well. Next, I have the grapes that I washed up and put in a Ziploc bag. Those will last all week. We actually had the pizza stuffed shells for dinner on this night, so I went ahead and boxed up the other 2 portions to have for lunches during the week. Here's the Farro Waldorf salad. This ended up being a really good recipe. Again, I'll link that down below so you guys can make it if you're interested. Here's the meat that I made for the Maid Rites sandwiches, and then my broccoli cheese soup. So that's in several different containers, and I'll take that to work during the week for lunches. There's a look at the pancakes. Those will go in the freezer for the kids to have for breakfast. Here's the chicken that I'm marinating in some of that famous Dave's chicken rub for barbecue chicken. Deviled eggs, and then just a few plain hard-boiled eggs for breakfast or lunches. I also this weekend cooked up some chili and some pasta, so I boxed that up to have for leftovers and then froze the excess. And then there is my chicken breast frozen up to go in the freezer for later meals. So that is everything I got done today. If you guys have any questions or if I forgot to link anything, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.